Hey folks, I made some great updates since last time. I have a lot of updates to share. When I left off last time, I wanted to investigate how best to handle the character portraits. So I spent some time figuring out where that logic was. I started with the bake shop. I had been playing around with this scene for a bit in order to understand how it worked. I found within here there's this was it instance greet. Instance greet. Okay. This greet script has the lines that the baker says when Graham walks into the bake shop. This is actually after the interaction between the Austin and Amanda occurs. So I wanted to compare side by side the disc version versus the CD version. So right here, instance greet. Right here is the CD version of the greet script. And you can see sort of side by side there's some, the states are kind of offset a little bit by, no, my mistake. They are right on here. Here, this state 3 here has the print box for here's Last of the Pies. This is not a talker. This is just the baker behind the window giving the pie to the baker behind the counter. And here this is the save function for it in the CD version. Here we have a talk dialogue. So the talk dialogue in the disc version is a little bit different. It does show an animated character, but it's embedded within the talk window, so it uses the same save function. The CD version uses a different means to do this, and when I came through this, I saw this proc 762. There's proc 762.0 and proc 762.1 that are both used to make the character portrait appear and have audio associated with it. And there's some parameters that are passed into it that I'll come back to later. As I drill down into this, they started to make more sense as far as what they were. Because when I go up and look at them now, it's just a bunch of numbers. But later on, the variables kind of give it some meaning. So the proc 762 is actually a reference. 762 is the script number for this code queue. And I guess that the decompiler didn't really have a good name for them, so proc 762 is what it just named them by default. But this is, what you can see here is this is just setting a bunch of local variables on both cases, and then it calls this talker object to do it on both. So the talker object is within this code queue script file. It is an instance of the code queue class. And you can see here this doIt method sets some volume controls, looks up some additional local parameters, but then down here it calls the background init. So I want to look up and see what is the background, and as I'm scrolling up I see, oh, this is interesting. There's mouth, eyes, bust, and the background, and this is view 166. So coming into SCI Companion, going to Views, view 166, right here, this is the wooden frame that appears around the character portrait. So and then each of these things, the bust, eyes, mouth, appear within them. They each have their own animations as the character is speaking. So I continue to drill down into this. It calls this is an instance of talker. It calls a super init on talker. So the talker class has this init method and has a bunch of these properties here for the bus view and so on. Drilling into this, as I kind of drilled in and I understood this better in terms of the bust, the eyes, and so on, really helped me understand those parameters that are passed in back within the bake shop script. So pulling that up here, I actually was able to see how they were used and documented what they're actually used for. So these are actually the view numbers for the character. And then this is all position information of the character within the view. So I think this is the position of the, this is the position of the background. And then this is the position of the bust, eyes, and mouth within the character portrait and where it's supposed to render it. So, for example, let's take a look at Graham is 1003. Oops. Then it also has 1018, 1020, 1021. So let's look for all of those. So here we go. 1003 is Graham. We had 1018 as the baker. 1020 and 1021 are Amanda and Austin. Okay. And then you can see, actually, if I drill in here, you can see this is bust, mouth, and eyes animation. So that was kind of cool to see how that worked. Coming back here to the talker, started to drill down into here, and I saw that there's this call to say. And I'm like, okay, that's actually interesting. I'm getting closer to what I need. The say function or method calls start audio method. There's a start text here. This is never used as far as I can tell. Global 83 is always set to true in the CD version. Start audio calls. There's two calls to do audio here. Odd W play per the documentation actually just loads the clip and returns the number of ticks, but doesn't actually play it. Here we actually play it. I don't know why this is called. I'm assuming maybe it's just to preload or something. I really don't know. But here we're actually playing the clip, capture number of ticks, and I'm like, okay, great. This is where I can call my functions that I've written within main. So this is what I did here for talker. Coming down to say, this took me a while to get to this particular logic, and I'll explain a little bit what it does in a moment. First, I would like to demonstrate what this looks like when I first was going down this route without some of these calculations and so on that are listed here. So let me comment this out. We're going to compile. And we're going to start the game. Oop, that is King's Quest 6, not 5. Here we go. That's what we're looking for.
Watch out! A poisonous snake!
So yeah, already you can see you have the text box appearing over the character portrait. The animation kind of overlaps in a weird way. This sort of happens throughout. So the interesting thing to note here is that it's using the selector information, which includes all the position, the timeout, and so on, from the disk version, not from the CD version. And the appearance there is slightly different. For comparison, I'll put that up. There, and you can see just the text box. It's just different. This is the position information it's inheriting from. And when I started to realize this, I realized that I couldn't use the selector information from the disk version for the CD. I wanted to preserve the presentation of the character portrait window as it was in the CD and leverage that and do something that was that would honor that. So what I ended up doing, I took a look at King's Quest 6, and King's Quest 6 will display the character portraits in the upper left corner and the text always to the right of it. And that got me thinking, okay, well, I could do something similar here. We can align the text towards the top of the talker window So it always appears the same way vertically. And then horizontally, it can appear either to the left or to the right, depending on where the talker window is on the screen relative to the midpoint. So if the talker is left of the midpoint, then we do the text box to the right of the talker. If the talker is to the right of the midpoint, then we do the text box to the left. And we adjust the position and the width dynamically for where the talker window is. So I went with that, and that actually worked out pretty well. I'm going to do a demonstration of what that looks like real quick.
Graham, watch out! A poisonous snake!
Stay away. This is my path.
And this works actually really well, surprisingly well for most cases. There are a couple cases where the, like where that snake was on the right-hand side, you can see sort of had an elongated window for the text box. So that might happen if you have a small set of text. It might look really long for what you actually need in that case. So that's the only place where it might look a little bit off, but otherwise, for normal cases, for almost all conversations, this is what it ends up looking like, and I actually think it looks pretty
As a
good.
matter of fact,
No, sorry.
that's what I figured.
I'll keep an eye out for it.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to tackle was the Ants and Weeping Willow songs. So the Ants don't actually have any lyrics, or the Weeping Willow have any lyrics to their songs in the DOS or the disk version. In fact, there's no audible song because there was no talking at all. So this is something that's relatively new. It's new relatively new to the game with the CD version. So, but I wanted to represent it since there is actually speaking lines there. So I added these lines to module 340. 340 was the smallest module that I had. There were only a handful of lines that were actually printed. So I figured, why not? I'll leverage this. And I referenced those resources from the respective scripts for those rooms. So starting with the ants, I had to spend some time to understand how these objects worked in here. There's this search haste script, and I had to understand what a script object was, how it works. It has these states, it's calling change state, and then it advances from state to state. So what actually happens here is for a lot of these states, we are passing a reference to ourself, the script object, into the method that we're calling or the function procedure that we're calling. And that method or procedure will make a callback onto self. It'll call the Q method of the script. And the Q method, if I were to go and look at the script, I guess I can do that. I'm not actually, never mind. I'm not really sure where the script is defined at the moment. But if I were to do that, you would see that the script class actually has a Q method that increments the state number and calls change state. So understanding that helped me make a lot more sense of what was actually going on here and how this script worked and how it advanced. Coming down here, there's this call to a sing script. And then you can see that the ants animations kind of advance throughout. This is where King Antony speaks. So here's the sing script. This is where the ant song is called. So I made my own script that I call immediately after the ant song is invoked. It waits 4 seconds. So this is actually timed to the song. There are 4 seconds at the beginning of the song that have no lyrics, and then it proceeds to go into the singing. and then I add a timer after each one, so that way, timer which calls back upon the lyric script, back on itself, so that way it'll advance to the next state when the timer is done. And then finally, once it's done, we wait 16 seconds with this whistling dialogue, and then we clean up after ourselves. Similarly for the Willow, let's see. I think this happens with, it was actually, I think when you talk to Cedric that it does the song. Let me look for, I think it's actually say 9999. Yeah, here we go. Sad song script. Okay. So then same thing here. Lyric script is called right after the safe procedure is called for the Willow song, and then it calls the print function module 340, and fetches each line and prints it out. So I will demo what that looks like. I actually have save states saved here, but they don't load properly unless the build. Oh, look at that. Well, I didn't expect that to actually work, because I thought that I had made changes to the build here. Let's try it out.
Graham watches with surprise as the contingent of ants marches into the haystack and begins to swarm through it.
I'm glad to see there was a way that we could be of help to you. Look here.
So there you
Why,
go.
thank you, King Anton.
Good luck in your travel.
And then similarly for the Weeping Willow.
Oh, what a sad song she plays.
How will I find this heart of mine, taken from me for some time? Here I stand near my pool of tears. Here I'll stay throughout my years.
And there you have it. So the next problem that I wanted to solve was I had an issue with the genie. The genie sequence, even though all the text had been transcribed, was not printing out any text boxes. So I went to try to locate where the genie code was. Let's see, I can close some of these. Here we go, release genie. So this right here, this is the freedom at last, calls the print function. So I try to locate the similar location for that in the CD version, and instead of calling say or a talker, it calls this global audio. Actually, this is not the one. That's a sound effect. This is the one, 9112. And I can check that one here. So let me just make sure. Yes, so that is the script for Freedom at Last. So understanding that there is another method now for how audio was actually played, I went to search, okay, well, what else is using this global audio? It turns out that it's mostly sound effects. But there are some other ones that are using global audio that are not sound effects. I think the 7/7 or this 4/7 is the water effect that happens with the river. All of the 8000s sound effects. The 101s are intro and ending, but there are a couple things like this, like the genie one. I think this one also, I don't remember what this is offhand, but there are a few of these that are like this. So understanding that, I went to understand, okay, well, where is global audio? It turns out, because it's global, globals are defined in script 0, which is main. And global audio is a reference to the global audio instance, which is an instance of the audio class. And there was no method defined here. This was all done by audio. I provided this override of the audio script of the play method. So if, for example, I go and look at audio, class audio has the play here, it calls do audio, and it does some other things to check if something has stopped, and calls the Q function back if it needs to. There's a bunch of other functions for stopping and pausing and things like that. But for our purposes, we just needed to override play, so that way we could use our audio function. One thing I also wanted to make sure, because there were a couple things, like I think there was one example, that was 9300. 9300 doesn't exist. I saw that referenced a few times in my playthrough, where it was trying to play the audio for 9300, and then it would complain that it couldn't find the resource to print for 9300. So I'm like, okay, well, let's make sure that it's actually playing before I try to print it, so it doesn't add additional warnings to ScumVM. But going through this, it's been interesting because there are some peculiarities to the game that I didn't quite expect about certain things that may have been missing or may have been removed. That I don't know the full story behind. Anyway, so that I can also demo real quick. The temp, I guess I can do any of these. I go to the Dark Forest, for example. I mean, I can open it myself.
Freedom at last! Now you spend the next 500 years in a bottle.
And I tested. It's the same thing for the witch too. So that was cool. Additionally, I know I mentioned this kind of throughout that about the resource, but I ended up finishing the whole resource mapping. The layout, I know originally I was talking about compressing a lot of the module 350 because there was a lot of empty space. I just abandoned that. It looked really janky in the code. So, for example, if I go to the print for audio, you can see like this just looks a lot cleaner than having resource 5000 broken out to, if I'm a specific entry number, then use a different or a specific range of resource, use a different entry number. I ended up not liking it. So that results in quite a lot of empty space in the text. So if I come here to 350, you can see that there's some gaps. But realistically, like it's just null bytes. It's just a bunch of extra null bytes that it's 1K worth, so it's not a huge deal. So yeah, these are all completed now. These are all mapped out. These all have the parameters, the selector parameters defined here. Some of these selector parameters aren't really ever used because they're using the talker, and I've overridden the location and everything. But yeah, that is done. I also ended up doing a walkthrough of the game. That's how I was able to create all those save games here. And this was great because I was able to see find there were a bunch of cases where I had incomplete text, where I've been copying the text over from the disk version and listening to it and making corrections to the text based on the audio that I heard. there were some typos or some things that I missed, so I tried to clean those up. I also identified some bugs. You see this attempt to read character from non-raw data. This happened a lot. This was actually, there were some problems with the parse selector function. So coming down to parse selector, the first issue that I ran into was the array needed to be initialized. In general, a lot of parameters, there were some cases where parameters just weren't getting initialized, but this particular array was one problematic one. Another problem was I wasn't actually terminating the string with string copy. This is normally string copy will terminate the string for you. It'll add a null character unless you're passing in a number of characters, in which case this uses the C's string end copy, which does not null terminate and expects you to do that. So that is what I had to end up doing here. So that was cool that I managed to solve those. I also found there was one issue with Cedric in Mordak's Castle was not printing its text dialogue, even though the resource was there. This was when Cedric flies into Mordak's Castle, it has this gram. I've heard from Crispin that Cedric's character profile would appear, but the text dialogue would not. And I didn't quite understand what was going on there. I thought maybe there was a problem with my logic or it wasn't pulling in the text. So I went down that path, but that was not the problem. The text is there. The logic is correct in main. I thought maybe this was a boundary condition, so it was on the wrong side of the boundary or something, but no, this looks like this would evaluate it correctly. I even tested it in a different location just to make sure that it wasn't a problem with the printing logic within the audio functions. What actually ended up being the problem was this, let's see, it was called this, interestingly enough, it's called death script. Death 1 script. This is used for deaths, but it's also used for when Cedric dies. So, let's see. I'm not finding it that way. Let's try, is it say 3000? Just look for 3. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is the talker dialogue, so it won't be say. So this was getting printed out, but then the next state happens immediately, and this clear screen function is run, which removes the text box immediately. So that's what was the problem there. I didn't see any other place where something like that happened. So I just had to comment it out, and when I tested it, it worked great. There was no other problem. So I can demonstrate what that looks like.
What's going on here? I'll take care of you, you swine.
Graham, I've heard from Crispin.
Boom, and it works. There doesn't seem to break anything by removing the clear screen. Clear screen just removes the text box. That's all it does. And there were no text boxes in the CD version anyway. So,
you think you can outwit me, little?
Okay, we're not going to play through this at the moment. And that is pretty much it as far as code changes. I also have made a GitHub project. And this is, I have release 0.02 out there already. This has all of the latest fixes, except for the Cedric one. Didn't quite, I don't know why the images didn't load. I didn't quite manage to get that into this patch. I fixed it after the release, but that'll be coming in the next one. It has instructions for how to build it if you want to try to build it yourself, but I think most people want to try to run it themselves. And it calls out that the intro and outro or ending are really still the only things I need to do. I kind of expect those to be the most challenging part of this, but I guess we'll see. And that is all. thank you, folks, for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and looking forward to my putting out my next update soon.
Impatiently, Cedric waits for Graham. The hand-hewn wooden door is recessed within a small...
Graham, watch out! A poisonous snake! Ooh, if you follow this road along the river, you'll come to the town bakehouse. You might find something delicious. I mean, useful there. If you're going into town, I'll just wait for you here. I had a nasty run-in with a big dog once, and I feel much safer out here.
How goes it with you, good fellow?
Not well, I'm afraid. This old wagon's always giving me trouble.
Can I help you in any way?
Thank you kindly, but I think I can handle it.
All right then. Good luck.
Thanks. With this wagon, I'm gonna need it.
Inside the barrel, Graham sees an old rotting fish. Graham leans way down into the barrel and removes, phew, the smelly old fish.
Top of the morning to you, sir.
Hello.
May I help you, sir? Here, let me help you with that. Oh, that cloak fits you perfectly. It just looks wonderful on you. Let me tell you, it will certainly keep you toasty warm during the coming winter. Let me know if you wish to buy it.
Come on in, look around. Let me know if you're interested in anything.
The shipment of carving wood hasn't come in yet. What should we do?
If it's not in by tomorrow, I'll send you to the sawmill.
Okay, Papa?
Ja, mein darling?
Can I keep this doll? I really like her.
Now, Katrina, you know these toys are for sale for other kinder. Besides, you've got plenty of dolls. You can play with her, but just be careful.
All right, Grandpapa. I'll take care of her.
That's a fine sled, isn't it? Any child would love to have it.
Yeah.
Dum.
Bending down, Graham quickly retrieves the silver coin from the street.
Ooh, I'll wait for you here, Graham.
And how is your poor dear mother doing, William?
Oh, she hasn't been doing too well lately. But my brother and I help out whenever we can. Thanks for asking, Amanda.
Austin, keep your fingers out of that pie. The pies look lovely. I think I'll take one.
Yes, they were just made fresh this morning. Here you go.
Yes, this will be a fine dessert for our dinner tonight. Let's go home, Austin.
What's your name?
My name is Austin. I'm here with my mama. We're buying a pie for dinner tonight.
That's nice. Good day, madam. That pie looks awfully good.
Ah, yes. My family will enjoy it, I'm sure.
Here's the last of the pies.
Welcome to our bakehouse, traveler. Of course, all of our wares are wonderful, but today we've got a special on custard pies. Just 1 silver coin each, but take your time. Let me know when you're ready.
Sir, I would like to purchase one of your custard pies.
These pies cost 1 silver coin each.
I've got it right here. Here you go.
I hope you enjoy your custard pie.
Oh, I'm sure I will. Excuse me, young man. Sorry to bother you, but I couldn't help but notice you sitting there on that log. I was wondering if there was anything wrong.
Why, yes. As a matter of fact, there is. I've been searching everywhere for my fiancée. She's a beautiful princess with long golden tresses, fetching blue eyes, and smooth creamy skin. Have you seen her anywhere about?
No, sorry, I haven't seen anyone like that.
That's what I figured. No one has seen her. I bet that a witch who lives in the dark forest had something to do with her disappearance.
I'll keep an eye out for her. If I see her, I'll let her know you're looking for her.
I would appreciate that. Well, I guess I'd better get back to looking for her. I'm not ever going to find her just sitting around here. Thanks for your concern.
The sign seems self-explanatory enough. Enter at your own risk.
Back to the east is Crispin's house.
Cedric seems to be quietly contemplating their current situation, and so is not inclined to indulge in conversation right now.
Oh, what a sad song she plays. Let's try to cheer her up, Graham.
How will I find this heart of mine, taken from me for some time? Here I stand near my pool of tears. Here I'll stay throughout the years.
Miss Willow?
Yes?
You can talk?
Why, of course I can. What did you expect?
Well, I've never seen a talking tree before. What's wrong?
Everything's wrong, can't you tell? I'm not really a tree. I'm really a princess. You see, my fiancé and I were walking through this wood when a nasty old witch came along and was instantly charmed by my handsome prince. When he naturally refused her advances, she jealously banished him to a faraway land and turned me into a tree. Then she stole my heart.
Stole your heart?
Yes, she turned my heart to gold and took it away with her. The only way I can become human again is to have my heart brought back. Now, all I have to cheer me up is my harp. It's quite magical, you know. It plays the sweetest music you've ever heard. Now please, leave me alone in my sorrow.